Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WeatherBrains episode number 840. 840. It's the pre-show, magical part of the program where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and on occasion we say outrageous things. Haven't done it lately. It's about time we do that. So welcome. We're back on Monday night here. This is for the 21st of February, 2022. And if you want to see the beginning of the produced show that is released to the world on the audio podcast side, just move the slider over about 8 minutes. But this is where we get the embed code going for the TV guys, and they can get us on the air. And we are on our local digital weather channels here in this market. And then we got to get everybody invited in here. I did a Tuesday night special last week, but we're back on Monday nights, and hopefully we'll stay on the Monday night routine for a while. People were asking, is this a Kiss album? And it really is. This is a Kiss piece of vinyl right here. I mean, you don't see this a lot. I mean, I grew up as a child playing these things on the rock and roll radio through high school and college. I worked my way through college doing this. And Dave Baird, our news anchor who retired, he had these in his desk, and he came over and said, "You want these?" And I said, "Yeah." So anyway, people see this back here, and they are Kiss albums. And why Dave had those, I have no earthly idea. And again, I got some of the old 45s actually played up here from the glory days when I was a young hipster stud guy with long hair down to my shoulders. But let me tell you what, out of all the things I've done in my life, I've done a lot of stuff. Nothing beats that first Sunday night shift on that little AM top 40 radio station in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, running 250 watts. I mean, you could barely hear it across town, but everybody my age was listening to it. I was in high school, and the fact that they put me on that station was, again, it was just magic. I remember everything. It was a Sunday night shift. It was 6 to midnight. Remember the mistakes I made. Remember the songs I played. And what's cool, I've actually got some of those vinyl songs up here. The old radio station was going to be torn down, and we got in there and got some of the stuff out of there before they did that. All right, no, that's a bore. I've been telling boring personal stories. That is part of the deal here. So let's invite everybody. I know that Aubrey is out. I think for a couple of weeks, but everybody else hopefully will be in here. And we'll get this sucker going here. I think Mr. Bill Murray is back. He was out last week. I think we had 50-cent beer night at Hooters. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got to get Rick Smith here. And I think that's everybody. Puts these suggestions on people that you should invite to this show here. And there's some great ones. I mean, goodness gracious. I see some of these people, just legends in the weather enterprise. And I'm thinking, I wish we could invite them. But anyway, all right. So they'll be showing up here in just a second. We've had a rainy day here today. Very active weather across the country. Very interesting. We've got some temperature extremes. We got some big snows. We got some rain, some severe weather issues. It's a very interesting week for weather watchers, which typically is the case this time of the year. It's very interesting, late February into March. And we've got kind of a minor severe weather threat here tomorrow night. It doesn't look like a really significant type event. But how many times have we said this here? All it takes is how many? One. If there's one tornado in the whole state, and if that thing comes down your street, it's a big deal. So we have to be careful with our messaging, not to downplay everything. But on the other hand, you don't want to be a hypester. And that's half of what I fight these days. It's hyperbole from, all these kids. And again, I don't think they have any malice when they post all the hype, but they just get carried away. And if you hype up every time we have thunderstorms or maybe some small hail, then nobody will listen on the days where you do need to pay attention. So anyway, I'm preaching, guys. I'm sorry. Been in a preachy mood all day. So Neil, I'm trying to figure out where Mr. Murray is. He's got this fuzzy, out of focus background, like artsy fartsy.
Because I don't want people to see my Peloton.
But the only trouble when you put those fake backgrounds in there, when you turn your head sideways, half of your head disappears. Your head becomes
this
lopsided.
Isn't a fake background. It's just a blur. So I think that works a little better. You can warn me if it doesn't, James.
No, in your
I've been doing lighting, all mine this way. Am I lighting what?
Your lighting looks good.
Good.
How is my audio all right?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
I never figured out what that problem was, but it did it to me on a couple different platforms.
The NWP czar. That's awesome, man. Bill Murray, what we need to do is a show just with Neil.
I know. May get to do it tonight.
Yeah, that's true. Because goodness, I've got a gazillion questions for this guy.
Yeah. Yes. James, how's my cologne? Is it okay?
Little strong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll watch that next time. Axe work in there?
Yeah, the axe. Yep.
Oh, yeah. The worst thing is
what was that stuff we used to wear in the 70s, James? Musk oil or something?
Oh, high karate was the worst.
Yeah, high karate. English leather lime. I'm like, did I get a date with English leather lime? That's got to be scary.
So, one year, it was the summer of 1976. We went to Daytona Beach. We were in college, and two of the guys went to literally 5-cent mixed drink night. And they came back and they were lit like a candle, and they were so out of it that one of the guys pooped on the floor in the hotel room. And so one of the guys decided he was going to mask it by putting high karate on top of the poop pile.
Oh, no.
I cannot tell you, to this day, the thought of that makes me want to gag.
Yeah.
Just absolutely gag.
Makes you want to go back to college and high school, doesn't it?
Oh gosh, I can't tell you how bad that was.
We went to Panama City for 2 weeks at the end of our senior year. And after about 3 days, you've had about all you can take of it. But, these motels were charging like a gazillion-dollar deposit. We stayed at a place called the Casa Loma. It was a round hotel. And so I was, the adult in the room most of the time. And so we had paid like this, literally like a $2,000 deposit. And so I look up one morning and there is a girl taking pictures off the wall. And I looked at my friend, and I'm not even going to protect his name. I looked at Jeff Rowland and I said, Jeff, what are they doing? He said, they need to borrow our pictures so they can get their security deposit back. And I'm like, dummy.
Do y'all wonder at all? We got Jen and Michaela staring at us going, what have we gotten ourselves into tonight?
I wonder that every week.
I greatly apologize. I'm so sorry.
That was our best rabbit hole ever, right there.
Yes, it was.
I jumped in at college and things going on, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm still in college. I'm gonna stay out of this one. I don't know what's happening."
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you missed the 5 cent mixed drink night, Michaela.
I could play the rat. I could play our old rat hole song.
Do we have it?
Rat hole, 43 folders of rat hole, the weekly mind-breaking rat hole, totally off-topic rat hole.
Rick, you made the smartest decision by joining when you did, Rick. You were the smartest.
I heard 5 cent drinks or something, so that's when I popped in. So.
Smart.
We've been down a rat hole, totally off-topic rat hole.
Oh man!
All right, I think we're all here. So, what's really bad? The TV people joined at the top of the hour, right when this was going on. So, Oh yeah, you don't get good TV like this on the other channels. Only on this one right here.
Don't.
So,
All right, we do not. We may have to audible here because we do not have our other guest.
Well,
Jen, if we do, we're pivoting to you.
Where's Will?
That's what we do here. We just
don't pivot.
And I'm serious. We need to do a show with Neil. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean,
you got it.
Because understand, numerical weather prediction is the backbone of what we do as practitioners down here. And I've got 20 gazillion questions for him. And I know that everybody else does too. And considering his new role, I just think that'd be a great show in itself. Because
besides that, Neil, that's what we blame when things go really wrong. So.
Exactly. Yeah. and now we can just blame Neil because he's the NWP czar. Yeah. So we'll just that's all right. If we have to pivot, we'll pivot. But let's get this thing started since we're on the television here. All right, here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
WeatherBrains is brought to you by Midland Weather Radio. Every home, school, and business should have a NOAA Weather Radio, the official voice of the National Weather Service, and the AMS Weather Band.
Join the American Meteorological Society by becoming a member of the band. The AMS Weather Band is a global community of weather enthusiasts dedicated to learning and sharing their love of science. Visit amsweatherband.org to learn more and join the band today.
Hey, let's crank up this party. This is WeatherBrains, episode number 840. 21st of February, 2022. Wintertime. Entering the fourth quarter here, we can see spring coming. It's coming. So let's see here. I see Troy Kimmel, who at this time last year.
85 degrees in Austin today. 85 degrees in Austin.
So compare it to 1 year ago when you were on ice for how many days?
It was about a week or so, something like that. Yeah. But boy, 85 today and even warmer tomorrow. And then the weather changes after that. Thank you, Kim and Rick. As it rolls out of Oklahoma back down into Texas. So it should prove to be interesting. In fact, if we get up the mid and upper 80s tomorrow, and every indication are that we will, and we only hit around 50 on Wednesday, that's almost what? That's almost 40. I'm doing my math here in my head, which is dangerous. But, that's 40 degrees difference almost in temperature. So that's really amazing.
Yep. And let's go north to our associates, Kim and Rick. You guys are in a little severe weather risk? Looks like you're kind of on the edge of it. What's the story there?
Yeah, Rick, you've been busy. Tell us about it.
No, I was going to let you talk. Yeah, I mean, the severe risk, we got up to 70 today. I thought that was warm, but geez, 85. You win, Troy. Severe risk is kind of southeast of us tonight. The cold front's coming in and we're back to the nasty wintertime weather tomorrow. You said did you say you're going to get to 85 again tomorrow, Troy?
Yeah, well, actually, with more of a west and southwest wind tomorrow, I'm saying 86, but we'll see. Mid and upper 80s. Not a record, though, for Austin. Our records for the next few days, both at Bergstrom and Mabry, actually are in the mid 90s, I think. So we're not worried about that.
We're hoping for 35 or 36 here for a high. So
yeah.
And then like 25 the next day. So.
Yeah, so I will not be hearing your complaints about 85. Just keep those to yourself, please.
Yes.
Hey, Rick, you might back your audio down just a smidgen. It's a little hot, just a smidgen. So, Kim, how's life in the family there? How are the kiddos doing this evening?
They're doing great, but we got to run them outside today. So the next couple of days, once that cold air sets in, that is going to be harder. And especially when it starts sleeting, that's going to make life interesting. Although my kids both really kind of like the cold and wintry precip. They think it's really awesome and cool. So, we're going to just roll with whatever we can roll with. And hopefully it does produce a sleet storm rather than an ice storm. That's far preferable here. Even if it's not fall and it's not going to be foliage on the leaves and a threat for our power, it's still a marginal threat for the power. And I just don't want to do that again.
No. We all had a bad year last year. Most everybody on this show had a really bad year last year. So we could just want to move on and do something different this year. Now let's go to our East Coast correspondent, Dr. Neil Jacobs. Neil, you're kind of missing all this fun with record warmth, record cold, snow, ice. Pretty quiet over there, huh?
Yeah, I'm in DC right now. It's beautiful. It was, upper 60s, not a cloud in the sky.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
The family came up for the 3-day weekend, and the kids decided to rub banana peels on the walls. And I spent the rest of this afternoon with a magic eraser and some touch-up paint.
Why were they rubbing banana peels on the walls? Was there a point to this, or an
it
experiment?
seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah,
that's how most.
I don't think, Neil, with kids are necessarily any points in that. I mean, it's just because it can be done. So
the problem was you didn't notice it until the banana on the wall actually turned brown.
Starting to smell.
I'm just upset that I didn't think about this when I was a kid. I mean, goodness, what a great idea. I mean, we'll be working for these guys one day. That's awesome.
Yep.
Wow. So Jen, have you ever rubbed the banana on a wall?
No, I have not done that. No, that sounds like fun though.
Kim's just making sure it was bananas.
Yeah, that's what Kim's asking.
Oh man.
The show's going downhill quick.
Yeah, down the tubes.
Sorry, Michaela.
Bill Murray was absent last week. Bill, was it 50-cent beer night at Hooters, or what was going on? You want to explain yourself?
Well, inflation kicked in. It was a 50-cent mixed drink night somewhere, James, I'm sure. But I don't even remember what I was doing last Monday night. That's the scary thing. So
especially since we were on Tuesday.
Yes, that's true. I do.
Yeah, you were doing something work-wise, I think.
Well, yeah, that's right. I was doing accounting training. Yeah, so it's just been a blur. It's been today, breaking up contractors and keeping fights from happening, and just hey guys, let's get along and just keep hammering over there. Hammer some more. Yeah, there you go. Good. Okay, good. So that's been my day, and it will be my day for the next 3 weeks, unfortunately.
Sounds like you're the president today. Anyway. Keep hammering.
Well, and when it's all over, he will be at 50-cent beer night at Hooters. So.
Yes.
Hey, there are 4 cans of snake handler in the refrigerator if things get desperate. Nobody knows what that is, probably, but unless they live in Alabama.
4 cans of what?
Snake handler. You've never heard of Back 40 snake handler beer, James?
No. What?
Yeah, it's a famous Alabama beer. It's really like Jen's F5, where she gets whatever that beer she gets. So it is over here for a case of emergency. Made by good people out of Birmingham, just in case.
Cool.
Wow. All right, they could. I think we need to send them an invoice for this free ad message they just got here.
Well, I tell you, we really should send an invoice to, James, are these Piper and Leaf people. They're in, James, what county is Lacey Springs in? I bet you know the answer to that.
Lacey, that's got to be in Madison, right?
Yeah, out of Huntsville. This tea right here is out of this world. And I've been drinking that like crazy, to the exclusion of the snake handler, because the snake handler only does bad things. It can only lead to trouble. So I've been.
Thanks for listening to Beer and Tea Brains tonight. So Jen, would you please bring in our guest before she hangs up on us?
Michaela, please don't go. Please don't go.
Somebody needs to read Rick's comment before we go any further.
We're turning into the Stormfront Freaks podcast. What are you drinking?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I'm bringing in our guest for tonight is Michaela Smith. She is a senior at the University of Oklahoma, majoring in meteorology and minoring in broadcast and math. I have that right. She is the senior weather producer at OU Nightly and is also the weekend meteorologist right now at News 12 in Sherman, Texas. Michaela Smith, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
We love it. So you are now front and center. We're going to, our other guests could not make it. So it's all about you. But we had a tweet that came in a few weeks ago. We were tagged in it that said, we need to get you on the show. And as soon as I saw your video, I was like, I sent it to everybody and we were just so impressed with you and wanted to talk to you. So we'll get to why we have you on the show and that part, but we want to just talk about who you are, and we're just going to do what we always do and go back to the beginning. You know, what made you decide that I'm going to be a meteorologist? So was there, for all of us, for the most part, there was some kind of an event when we were younger that kind of got us intrigued with weather. So what was it for you?
I mean, there's been a few events, but the thing that really got me into it's like a two-part story. So the first one was my dad. I was, the classic kid I grew up in. I was scared of storms. And he had been in the Marines. And so he had picked up a couple of things. And then he went to Texas Tech and he took a couple of classes and just learned some stuff about meteorology. And so when I was really young and I would be terrified of storms, I would just, run in there and want some comfort. And he would, kind of just give me the basics. And I started to learn about it. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then in second or third grade, I can't remember, but meteorologist Evan Andrews, he's been in Fox 4 in Dallas forever now. And he's an awesome guy. We're close now, but he came to my school when I was young and basically was just giving us, the day in the life of a meteorologist. And I went home and I was like, I'm going to do that. And my mom was like, I'm sure you will, honey. Cause I'm in second or third grade and a kid's going to change their mind 100 times. And I did not. And I drew a picture of myself when I was in sixth grade in my art class. We had to do what we wanted to be when we were older. So I drew a picture of myself as a meteorologist at Fox 4 and my mom sent it in to them. And Evan Andrews invited me to come up to the studio and I got to watch him do stuff live on air. And so I kept in touch and now I'm at OU and I graduate in less than 3 months. It's crazy to me that I'm about to graduate, but living the dream.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of us got started, wanting to do what I was in sixth grade too, when I was in Florida and watching hurricanes come toward the Florida coast and what's happening? Why is it moving north? And why do they get stronger? And so I was tracking them on my little tracking chart. So what led you to OU? What was the draw there?
It was just the meteorology program is so awesome. And it kind of came at me as a surprise. I have family that went to A&M. And so they thought I was going to be an Aggie and we're hardcore on, the A&M train and they have a meteorology program down there too. But I was the first day of my senior year of high school. My best friend was like, hey, I'm going to tour OU. Do you want to come with? And I had looked into their meteorology program and I was like, first day of senior year, what am I really going to learn? It's like, and so I was like, sure, I'll go with you. So my mom and I came up here and I got to come to the school and I met an awesome person here and he works at Fox Weather now, but they put me in a thermodynamics class. They shoved me into thermodynamics very first day here. And I sat there in the class and I was like, maybe I don't want to do this. I was just floored. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm a senior in high school, not even, I was in calculus at the time. And I was like, what are they talking about? I know it now, I have grown, but yeah, it was crazy to me, but I met a really awesome guy there and he worked for OU Nightly and he was the senior weather producer then. And so he kind of just, filling me out, seeing what I wanted to do with meteorology. And I told him, I want to do broadcast. And he said, well, have you ever heard of OU Nightly? And I told him no. And so he invited me to come see the show later. And so I went with my mom and I got to kind of see what they were doing and I loved it. And so I think I kind of fell in love with it then in the studio and everything. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to go to OU.
That's awesome. So as you've gone through your college career, just kind of reflect back. And we have a lot of college students that listen to the show. So kind of lead them through, the things that you got involved with, and then also talk about OU Nightly and how that's helped you to be prepared to do broadcast meteorology, if that's what's your next step here after college.
Mm-hmm. When I came into OU, I felt honestly a little bit behind. There's a lot of people in the meteorology community that can be overwhelming at times. And, especially when you come to college and some people had all this knowledge already of things that they knew and they had studied all these events and, they could read soundings and all this other stuff. And I had loved the weather, but I had never taken the time to dive right in and know every single thing that was happening. And so I kind of felt at a disadvantage at the beginning because I was overwhelmed and people I was meeting, everybody seemed to know everything. And I was like, okay, did I miss something? Was I supposed to jump right in and already know all this stuff? But I took it in stride and I just gave myself the time and the ability to learn. And, I had some struggles with broadcast too. I started as a weather assistant at OU Nightly. And so I just helped them learn how to forecast. And they really gave me that opportunity to learn, look at the model, see what I like, see, how things change. We used to have a competition at OU Nightly. It's between the days of who's the most accurate. At the end of the year, they were going to get some type of a reward or something. So it was always fun little competition. So I was learning during all that, and I was like, okay, we got to be super accurate. And so I was just learning a ton. But I had a rough patch around the beginning of sophomore year where classes were just really hard, and I would have panic attacks before going on air. And I was just weather briefing at that point. We run weather briefs as like a commercial between when we do OU Nightly Live at 4:30, and then it runs again later on in the evening on Cox. And so I started having these like panic attacks, and I was like, maybe I'm not meant to do this. And I got as far as I went and met with an advisor, and I looked into changing my major to psychology. And I had a bit of a rough patch, and I had a friend that told me, he was like, okay, everyone gets to that point where things get overwhelming, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed. You're in college, you're not where you're from, stuff like that. And he told me, give it a month. And in a month from now, if you still feel as strongly as you do right now, that you're not prepared, that you're not good enough, that you don't think this is for you, I will walk with you to go, unenroll in meteorology and go roll in psychology. And I'm still here in meteorology. So I'm glad that he told me that, because he definitely helped me a lot. And so just between him, and then I had another friend that would, when I had my panic attack, she would just kind of grab my hand and just have me do some breathing exercises. And I think it's just confidence, if you're going into wanting to do meteorology and starting off, there's going to be people that are going to know more than you, and that's okay. Like you're going to grow, you're going to learn, and it's okay to not be amazing when you start off. That's the whole purpose of learning and getting experience and reps. And we all, we're not all born for the camera, but that doesn't mean we can't gain that confidence. And that was the biggest thing for me, is when that kind of shifted and I did get confidence in myself. And then it was more of a, I can do this, and I enjoy doing this, and it's fun for me. And that was, I think, my biggest shift, where I started to not get anxious about stuff anymore. You still get the nerves every now and then if you have a big event to cover, or just certain things, you have a certain audience that, or I get a little nervous before coming on here. So there's always certain things so that, you can get nervous about. But I think that was the biggest shift for me, was realizing that having that confidence is really key in doing anything and believing in yourself.
That's so awesome. You had that support there, and kind of want to back up just a little bit about OU Nightly. I don't know if everybody kind of knows what that is. I mean, it's like a newscast, a 30-minute newscast that's on, I guess, every weeknight. And I've been super impressed with that. I can't imagine. I mean, the OU students who are going into broadcast are so lucky to have that. And talk a little bit about, I mean, you've got the real deal equipment. You've got the weather equipment, the weather system, computers and everything. Talk a little bit about that. I got to go sit in. Sean Riley let me come and spend a day there, spend an afternoon there, and I got to see putting the show together. I mean, this is not like drawing on a chalkboard or something. This is the real thing. Talk about what you do there, kind of behind the scenes, to put the weather show together.
Yeah, no, OU Nightly definitely prepares. People sometimes when they see it comes from a college, they're like, oh, these people are just doing college stuff. But I would definitely say it's the equivalent of sometimes going into a really small market. I mean, we have all the equipment. Yes, it's a student-run newscast, but it's an award-winning student-run newscast. And, the people that are in charge, our news director, she has had plenty of years in the business. She's not a student, so she knows what she's doing. We have other people that are in charge that are adults that have been in the news business in multiple different places. Our newest person that just joined us came from Oklahoma City. So we have plenty of people that know, and, they're great at directing. But yeah, we use Barron links to do weather stuff here. So most stations either use Barron or WSI. And so we're hoping to get WSI at some point in time. I know that's one of Sean's goals, is to have both, just so students can have that ability to see both before they graduate. But I mean, even that in itself has been amazing. I definitely feel confident whenever I go out and get a job, either with Barron, or I have my job now that I use WSI, but just having that skills in Barron and 4 years of it, I mean, I wouldn't have had that. And, other people who use PowerPoint and stuff like that, it's a bit of a disadvantage. And so OU's definitely done a lot for that. But we come in like everybody else. If we have our one newscast at 4:30 to 5. So I wish we had more. And that's on Cox in Oklahoma City, Norman, and Tulsa. So you can watch it on TV, and then it's streamed on Facebook Live as well. But we come in at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and we start forecasting, putting the show together. The people in editorial start to come in, start to pitch story ideas. We have reporters that start even earlier than that. They go out. I mean, today they had that fire in Southwest Oklahoma City at that Chick-fil-A parking lot that 10 cars burned. And we had 2 reporters that were there live covering that, with the start of the show. So we have equipment. It's a great space to learn. And I have never once, even going into my freelancing job now, people always, it's that first job. Are you prepared? And I felt more than prepared by all the stuff that they do here, because they've really, Gaylord has just put a ton of effort into it. And yes, I would say the meteorology students in broadcast definitely have a great space to go and learn and feel confident going in to their first job because of OU Nightly.
I think that's awesome. We've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of students. People come and do stories and interviews and things like that back when we could actually do that face to face. But I don't know what the Weather Service higher ups think about this, but I encourage people on OU Nightly to request an NWS chat account to get a chat account. That's part of being on TV and part of the broadcast world and interacting with the Weather Service. So I think it's a great program. So I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad you got to participate in it.
So, Michaela, I want to follow up from that great conversation about OU Nightly. I'm also in Norman, and I can't help but think about the path you've been on. I usually have the chance to, by the time you guys get to be seniors, I love getting to interact with students, and I just feel like so sad that I would have gotten to know you. And I feel like I've really missed out, even just in the couple of minutes that we've had with you so far. You're clearly so outstanding. And I just would love to hear a little bit from you about that part of what your college experience has been too. I can't imagine that it's been simple to try to pursue broadcast meteorology in the 2 years of the pandemic, especially. And when you were talking about sophomore year, you were having all of this flux. That was actually the last normal year of college that you had before all of this really started. So I'm wondering if, you can tell us just a little bit about what that has been like. Has that been even an additional challenge to pursuing this kind of a career?
It's definitely been a challenge at times. When I started having all of my issues and panic attacks and stuff, that was my first semester of sophomore year. And then second semester is when COVID hit and everything kind of shut down. And so that made getting any experience and doing stuff with Nightly. And that was, it was crazy for us. And I feel bad for the seniors then, because they just everything just ended. But, it's one area that I have recognized even in myself, that I know that it's been a bit of, not a major struggle, but we haven't had that ability to, go to a desk and talk at the end. We haven't been able to have, that banter and to learn stuff like that. And I consider myself, a pretty witty person. I like to make jokes and stuff like that. But it's just hard, especially looking at jobs. You have people, news directors, other people asking, do you have this with conversation? Do you have stuff like that? Or, even this weekend, I made a funny tweet the other day that in my weekend job in Sherman, sometimes I just tossed a break, but sometimes they want me to go back to the desk. And here at Nightly, we still aren't allowed to do that. So since I started doing Nightly and being an anchor at the beginning of junior year, I've never done that. And so I forget all the time that I need to do it. And so I'll walk off. And so the other day I walked off on the wrong side of the green screen. And so I crawled under the cameras, still talking about the 7-day, to get up and pop up at the desk so I could do my anchor talk, because I didn't want to go back across the green screen because I had already walked off the wrong side. But it's just one of those things that I was just like, I forget that's some of the things we do because we haven't had that ability, and I wish that we had, but they've done the best that they can with the situation. And, we are still able to be in the studio, and we wear masks and then we take them off, and we have the OU protocol. If people get test positive with COVID, you have to, mask up. Things have to get a little bit more careful, but a lot of people here are vaccinated. And so that's been a nice thing that we have been able to slowly move towards somewhat going back to more normalcy. But I think that's one of the things that I've just, even, the last week, I've noticed that in myself, that those small things. And with school as well, I always like to joke that the seniors that graduated they would call themselves the COVID class. But I feel like, my class and, the classes below that have just known COVID, basically, we had one normal full year of college, and everything else besides that has been COVID. And so I feel it's like sometimes it's a bit of a disadvantage just because so many classes have been online, and that time that you would get to meet people like you and be around the National Weather Center and to run into people that you would work with one day and just have those connections and experiences. We don't really have that anymore because we can't just loiter and just be around there. You come in for class if you do show up to class, and then you have to leave, or you come in and, you do your stuff on Zoom. So that part has been unfortunate, and I really wish, and I hope it gets to change. I hope that this stuff continues to trend down, and people coming in, the freshmen now, get to have more of a normal experience and stuff like that. But we've done what we can.
I
think
like
everybody
really persevered, right? Everybody's doing what they can. I have to say, what you just described doing in that studio is so impressive. I know we haven't had the chance to train you. We even have on the research side with the lab, we have a sort of it's a fairly complete studio built in the National Weather Center to do experiments with new prototype technologies with broadcasters. And we bring in students who are really interested in broadcast to be sort of student interns with us. And what you just described is the perfect skill set for running with us through the crazy that happens in that space. And you have an open invitation if you are ever interested in even coming back and participating, even if you're off into the real world. I think that would be very lovely. And we'd love to see that tuck and roll maneuver that you described. That'd be pretty amazing.
Well, I would love to come.
So before I talk to Michaela, Bill Murray and Rick Smith, what was that year we did the show at the National Weather Center in that auditorium and the ground floor? What Kim, maybe you were there.
2015.
Yeah, 2015. That's right.
I still am traumatized by that because I still
you
feel
and the
bad.
people that were in the audience, so they were the ones that were really traumatized.
People still talk about it.
So you guys put me down there with Doswell, okay? So you put me down there with Doswell, knowing good and well that we're going to drag each other into the abyss. And there was some bright-eyed college student, just like Michaela, who asked a question. Remember this? We had a live audience in there, and we did the show in there. And we just, Chuck and I lit into her. It was horrible. I mean, I look back on it and I'm thinking, why would I even do that? And in fact, I'll never forget, a couple of years later, I was sitting here in this room, in my closet, and this, the new interns were coming in for the summer. And they walked by, and I looked up and I caught this girl's eye, and she looked at me and I looked at her and thinking, uh-oh, that's the girl that we just tore into during that live WeatherBrains. Her name is Elise Smith, and we're good friends now. We are good friends. She's a meteorologist in Buffalo, New York, and we laugh about it, but I get traumatized. I got PTSD on this. So Michaela, I'm going to be really nice to you. Okay. And if I'm not, just hang up and run. Okay. So, and let me just say, before I even go down this path, I think your generation is brilliant, and don't ever let anybody say anything different. I think you work hard. You are brilliant. You're going to be so much better than we are. And I think your future is so bright. I think what this is going to morph into in 20 and 30 years is going to be so much better than what we're doing now. But my question is why would you want to get involved in this now? We're doing these Ron Burgundy newscasts that your generation will never use. The audience is older and they're dying. And why would you choose broadcast, just out of curiosity?
I just, the weather is something I'm really passionate about, and I feel like everybody should be able to understand the news. And I think that's a big thing with this generation, how we're trying to transition, getting along with that transition and understanding is getting more involved with social media and stuff like that. Because that's how a lot of people get their news now, is they just pull out Twitter or something. And that's how they see, I'm in a slight risk tonight, like we are here in Norman. But just having that accessibility to weather in a way that people can still understand and they get their news and stuff like that. And just, I'm passionate about it, and it's something that I want to be able to talk about, and broadcast is an area that you can talk about it and you can reach communities and people. And I mean, especially the stuff that you do, I see you posting all the time, going to kids and stuff, and still inspiring that next generation. I mean, that's how I got into it too, is if Evan Andrews wouldn't have come and talked about the day in the life, you know, maybe I wouldn't be where I am to now, maybe I still would be, but being able to kind of be that face and that voice that other kids see when they grow up and they're like, oh, I want to be like her. And, you know, she seems like she, you know, just you learning all that stuff. And if kids are passionate about the weather and still being able to keep people safe as well. And I think I was just passionate about it, and I still am. And just that communication aspect, I think communication is something with social media that we're losing as well. In a way, we are, you know, having more communication because social media, but also people lose that ability to be kind and communicate face to face and understand things like that with how it was in the older generation. And so just kind of understanding that transition and how it's going to change and shape the new way, I guess, that we get news.
So, and again, with this old television, I mean, we are doing Ron Burgundy newscasts from 1980 here, which is not relevant to your generation. I spoke with a group of college students your age. I asked them, how many of you have watched a local television newscast in the last year? Out of about 150 students, maybe 2. They don't use this, and I don't think they ever will. Why choose this old school dying television as opposed to just being a social media influencer where you can be a one-man band and make probably a lot more money and do it that way? Did you consider that, or was television just always what you wanted to do?
I feel like television, in a way, I know it seems kind of silly, but has been safer. And just, you know, people like myself, I am under no impression that I am done learning. I know that there's still a lot more that I can learn. And so coming into wherever, you know, I get a job, that you can just learn so much from the people around you. And even the older generations, they have so much wealth and knowledge to just pass down to us. And so we can take that knowledge and just being able to work with teams and stuff like that. You know, the whole one-man band thing, it's okay, but being able to work with the team and have people back you up and working, you know, the friendships and the community that you can reach with station and stuff like that. And people, you know, yes, it's the older generation that watches, but I still think there's plenty of people that, you know, with breaking news events or severe weather. I mean, severe weather is king, especially in, you know, the market like this. And you turn on, if there's a severe weather threat, people are still going to turn on to the news. They're going to look at the news. They're not going to, you know, they might see a couple of things on social media, but I think that part's not going away. And so being able to be a communicator and be on TV, hopefully saving lives and telling people just, hey, this is what's happening. And that part of it, having a team, having people to learn so much from, I never really considered the whole influencer aspect. I guess to me, influencers are like people, not to knock on The Bachelor or anything, but it's people like, you see on The Bachelor and doing other things that are, look at this cute clothes that I just bought type of situation. And, you know, if I get a really cute piece of clothing, like, yeah, I'll share it. But I guess I'm still old school in the sense that I think people get their, you know, yes, they get their news, certain situations from their phones and TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. But I still think that news holds value, and people, you know, my generation will settle down eventually. And I like to think that we'll start watching the news more. Hopefully.
They're not going to use, but look, here's the deal. I honestly think your generation is going to reinvent this, and it's going to be better in terms of audience, in terms of monetization. The whole thing is going to be better in 10 and 20 and 30 years.
It'll be streaming, right? I mean, it'll be streaming, don't you think?
Right. You don't need these towers. You don't. It's a waste.
Yeah.
And again, when the carriage fees go away, that's how most TV stations are surviving, Troy, not advertising, because the audience has gotten so small. I mean, you don't have anybody watching these newscasts anymore. And when the carriage fees go away, that's when the whole house of cards will just implode. But that's when it will force a new model to be built. And I'm really excited. I honestly think when Michaela is, 20 years from now, she'll be so much better off than I am in terms of reaching people, accomplishing her goal of wanting to help people during times of life-threatening weather, the whole thing. It will be outstanding. But I do think there's going to be some pain during the transition. And it is interesting to me to watch some of these influencers. We talked about this last week. You know, I've got these people that are asking people to send in money, and they're making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars during severe weather. People just send them money. I mean, and I'm not saying that's the model of the future. I don't think it is. I think I have a lot of thoughts on it. But anyway, I'm not trying to discourage anybody of Michaela's generation, because I honestly think that what comes out of this is going to be better. But I do believe with all my heart, we've got to be realistic, understand they're not going to be watching, you know, good evening, here's the news, sunny skies. Nobody's going to watch that. I don't have any, I have no interest in watching that. It's not relevant to me. And I'm the oldest guy. I'm old as dirt here, but it will be something different. So the next question is, and I promise I feel like I'm hogging the conversation here. Have you started at this young age to have a problem with trolls and negativity in terms of social media and things that you hear from people? Is that a problem for you already?
Yes. As much as OU Nightly has been, you know, people see it again, and it's college and they don't assume that it's very much. Just by doing that and having things getting posted out on Facebook and other situations, I've already had weird conversations, you know, sent to me, weird DMs, message to me, haters, lots of trolls. And now doing my freelance stuff, there's quite a few people I have blocked from my professional pages, just because, you know, even last night I got a really weird, I was just, you know, doing my job of talking about the fire danger and the impending severe weather and talking about the winter weather possibility down there in Texas. And I got a really weird message about someone telling me that they, you know, wanted to feel me up and stuff like that, and asked if I was single. And I was like, first off, why would you even, you know, you didn't even start with, are you single? You started with all these other things. Second off, like, I don't have to disclose that to you, but no, I am not. And it's just like, I immediately blocked them. And I was like, you know, it's not okay. And I know a lot of females, there's been plenty of, even the younger people here, we've had freshmen that are getting messaged weird things. And there was a YouTube page that was created a while ago about female broadcast meteorologists, and it would just, you know, clip it together. And it was like the hottest female broadcast meteorologist in America. And we had some of our freshmen who are, you know, 18 and 19 featured in that and being kind of sexualized. And I didn't like it. And it got reported a ton. And I think, you know, we filed copyright claims on it because it was stuff with OU Nightly. And it's just insane to me, just that side. And then, yeah, it's been, you know, there's been trolls too with other things, especially this signing stuff. I've definitely had a few people, and I don't know, you know, I don't think we're at that point yet to jump all into that, but I think there's trolls in everything, especially as soon as you get a larger audience, as soon as you're putting yourself out there in a way that people feel like that some people feel like they have a right to say things to you when you're a human being. You know, you have feelings and emotions, and it's kind of unfortunate that the people in the news world have been told that they have to be, you know, really thick skinned, and that they just kind of have to let things roll off their shoulder, because there's going to be so many people that are going to say rude and hateful and uncomfortable things to you. And that's just, you know, the normal, it's the day in the day job. And, you know, I know that, but it's unfortunate sometimes that that's the world we live in, that just because people see you on TV or on social media, they think they have a claim to how you look or how you say words or things that you know, do. And that's okay in their book, because they're like, oh, well, if she's on TV, she can handle it. It's like, you know, sometimes I'm 21-year-old kid, not kid per se, but yeah, kid compared to, you know, some of these people. And it's just like, I get it, but it's doesn't make it okay. And it doesn't, you know, it's hard to deal with sometimes. And especially starting out, I feel like I've heard a lot of it from people that I'm friends with that, you know, first year in the business, they always say is the hardest, because you have so many trolls and people commenting on you and telling you things, you know, that you're not good enough, that they don't like the way you dress and stuff like that. And I feel like if you don't have that support group, it can be difficult for people. And that's why a lot of people feel like, you know, never mind, the news world isn't really for me.
Did they address this in any of your classes by any chance? How to handle this?
No, that's the one thing
this affects your mental health. I mean, this
Absolutely.
is a big deal. It affects your mental health. And I don't know how to handle it. I feel my way in the dark, and it would just seem to me that at some point they might give you some guidance from professionals that could help, because this is hard. You know, there's not a book or a manual on how to deal with a troll.
I think that's the one thing I wish that we had more of here. The School of Meteorology is fantastic, but it's very still focused on research and certain things. And so you learn all the meteorology skills that you need, but there is nothing, we get our broadcast stuff from Gaylord, and it's a minor, but as meteorologists, there's not a class that we learn, this is how you're going to deal with these kind of people. This is how even the simple stuff of this is how you format a resume. This is how you put together a reel, it's kind of just up to you, and you can ask the questions, but it's never really formally taught that this is how you're going to go out into the world. This is what people are going to, think that they can say about you. This is how you need to handle certain situations. So I wish that was something that we did have here, that just, have a person that we could talk to, or, have a class and just be like, I hate that this is the world that you live in, but you can experience this. Here's how to handle it. If ever something happens, that kind of thing, that we're more prepared, because it's basically just, as you deal with it, as it happens to you, you just kind of have to put it together. And like I said, if you don't have a really strong support group, or if you're not a super strong person that has a thick skin, it can definitely wear on you. And I consider myself a person that has a pretty thick skin as well. But there's been moments too that I've just been really down, and I've had to rely on my significant other, or my family, or friends. And I've been, at times, and I haven't even gotten into the full world yet. And I've just been like, I don't know why people feel like they have this right to say these things about me, that they don't even know me. And so that part, I wish that there was something in place so that people, have that ability to learn and kind of see for themselves what they're getting into.
So one more question here, and I'll let others go. So on campus, as one that's specializing in broadcast, do you feel like at any time like a second-class citizen, because you're not going into research, you're not going to be working for the Weather Service, you're not going to be working for NOAA, you're not going to be the NWP czar like some people on the show here? I mean, do you ever feel like a second-class citizen?
Honestly, at times, yes. I have had moments with professors and other things that when you bring up broadcast, that's what you want to do. It's kind of like, it's like we're, the stepchildren sometimes. And I've heard that it's gotten a lot better, but it's still, there are some people that are really nice about it, and they're, great professors, but I have personally had experience with more than one that has, they have an opinion. And if you don't want to go get your master's, or you're not immediately going into research and you want to do all this stuff, that it's kind of, well, you're just doing broadcast, or what are you really going to do for society if you're not doing more research about how we can, do better in meteorology? And I feel like it's kind of rude sometimes, because we're all scientists. First off, we're all getting the same degree. If you're going to go into research and I'm going into broadcast, we take the same classes, we learn from the same people. But also, if you go into research, that's amazing. And that's, people need to be doing that. But it takes a lot to, understand the science, the research behind it, and then be able to communicate it with the general public in a way that makes sense and is knowledgeable, because that's how so many things in science get kind of messed up sometime and misconstrued, is because people just don't get it. They don't get it in scientific terms because it's confusing and it's a lot. And so broadcast meteorologists definitely have, their purpose and to exist, because they take that science and the research that's being done, which needs to be happen, but then they're able to share it with the public in ways that is still understood and made sense, and being like, hey, this is why this research is important.
And let me give you some encouragement. I felt that way too when I was young, but now in my older age, I don't feel that at all from people that are in academics, from people that are in research. I think they respect what they do. So I don't think that'll last long. So just as an encouragement, it will get better. I promise it will get better. That I believe that people understand the value that we bring to the weather enterprise, the important aspect of what practitioners do. And, quite frankly, a lot of those in research can't do what we do, and we can't do what they do. We're all part of this big wheel, and we're cogs that fit together and make it work. So it'll get better. All right, Jen, sorry.
No, Michaela, we're highly impressed. You made it through the James fan question asking period of this podcast. So we're very impressed with how you handled yourself. No, we want to pivot to talk about why, you were on our radar here on the tweeter in regards to just the impressive video that you put together with your heart for the hard of hearing and deaf community. And so we want to talk about American Sign Language, and just want to find out, when did you start learning it and why? So go ahead and start us there, and then I know a lot of us have questions. I know Neil wants to hop in here. He's going to take us down a rabbit hole, he said, and so we'll see where he goes.
Okay.
I know Kim's excited about this. So this is what we wanted to really focus on. So how did this get started for you?
So I was lucky enough that I went to a school where in elementary school, we learned Spanish. But then when I got to 7th grade, we had the option of either continuing to learn Spanish or to learn American Sign Language, ASL. And my mom went to tech as well, and she got her degree in special education. And she had a deaf friend, and she doesn't do that anymore. But I had known that growing up, that she had that deaf friend in college and had gotten her degree in special education. And, you know, she had known some sign language still. And then I have extended family that is deaf as well. And so when it came up to me, you know, I could either continue to learn Spanish or learn ASL, I immediately jumped at the opportunity to learn ASL, and I fell in love with it. It's a beautiful language. It's a very expressive language. You can always tell what people are trying to convey because, you know, they use their facial expressions, and it's great. And I took it for 6 years. I started it in 7th grade, and I continued all the way out through my senior year of high school. And I loved every second of it. And yeah, that's kind of where I started my journey with American Sign Language.
That's awesome. And I have a heart for the special needs community. And I've taught some classes, and there have been those who are deaf in the class, and I've learned just very little sign language. And it's one of those things I would love to learn more of. And I know how important it is to try to communicate this. And so the thing that you did was titled, the show was Signing Science with Smith, right? As what you entitled it. And that's your new endeavor. So talk about what caused you to go this route and to decide, you know, I'm going to try to do this. And what are some of your goals with this? Is this something that you want to try to see more mainstreamed, or do you want to try to do something on the side? So just kind of take us through your journey with actually doing something like this for broadcast.
So it got started with, I was talking with a friend, and honestly, I don't know how I didn't put this together sooner, just with how much I love meteorology. And even after, you know, I graduated from high school, I still just held on to my ASL and just like signing. And I've talked to some of my friends still from graduating, you know, class with me, and they're like, I have no idea how you remember all of that. And, you know, they said that they forgot all of it, and they took it just as long as I did, but I loved it so much and I clung to it. And then there came a point even in high school that, you know, we would get out of class and my friends would be like, okay, we're done for the day. And I would look up more signs, and I would try to communicate with, you know, my mom and other people. And just, I wanted to learn more and more and more. And I loved it. And so I noticed a turning point somewhere. But once I got to college, OU has ASL classes, but it's for a certain major. And so it wasn't something that I could take, and I didn't need it for my degree. And so I was a bit bummed, and I still thought about taking some classes, but when I realized you could only take it with a certain major, I just kind of stopped pursuing that in a sense. And I wish sometimes that I wouldn't have. The ways that I kept it up was it's on my resume. And so when I would have a couple waiting table jobs, you know, I worked at a couple of restaurants here in Norman. And so my managers knew that I knew ASL because I had it on my resume. And so there were multiple times that we would have deaf or hard of hearing families come in, and I was, you know, taken over there to wait on them because I knew sign language. And so that was always fun for me, those few moments that I would get to wait on people. And, you know, I would go and introduce myself and sign, and, you know, their eyes would just kind of light up like, oh my gosh, you know, we can talk to her. We don't have to write on our phone or try to do stuff like that. And so that was really special for me. But it took me, it just kind of came up. I was talking with a friend, and I had sent her my resume for something because I'm starting to apply for jobs. And she sent it back to me, and she was like, you know ASL? And I was like, yeah, I do know ASL. And she's, do you know what we could do? You know, you could do with this, how much of an impact you could make. And I didn't really. And then AMS was the following week, and Vivian did some amazing research. I don't know if any of y'all have looked into it, but she did some amazing research on the fact that meteorologists can learn 25 signs. If you can learn 25 signs in a life or death situation, you can communicate, you know, the important details, and how 25 signs is not a lot. And even, I mean, you can even learn less than that. I feel like, you know, there's could be 4 signs. If you could sign, you know, red, tornado, warning, and, you know, shelter, that can convey what's going on for people in those life or death situations that things are happening so quickly. So my friend sent me all of her research that she did at AMS, and I was just looking into it, and I realized, wow, I could do something with this. And I have that skill set because I took 6 years of ASL. And so when that winter storm was coming, I just thought now will be the time to go ahead and try something. And so I decided that day to go in and record myself. And we have a separate green room in the National Weather Center, apart from where our studio is in Gaylord, where we have a Unitely. And so I went in there and I just wanted to make a thing happening on the winter weather that was coming, and never thought that it would blow up like it did. I am still shocked that it did. I thought a couple of people would like it. My mom would share it, that type of situation. And so that's when I was just wanting to put 2 and 2 together. Social media is great. And like I was saying earlier, social media is how so many people get their news now. But a lot of times videos don't have closed captioning on social media. So if you have people that are sharing, 1 to 2 minute videos of them talking about the weather, recapping things that are going to go on this week, a lot of stations have people making these quick, short videos that they put on social media. My station that I work now included, and those don't have captioning a lot of the times, that are auto-generated and stuff. And so people who are deaf or hard of hearing, they can't engage with that. And so that was my real turning point, was that I wanted to create videos that I could post on social media and be shared so that people could still get the news in a way that was communicated easily to them, even if they weren't just sitting at home and watching TV.
Well, we saw it. We were just blown away and just so impressed. I thought it was just such a neat thing that you were doing. And so when I talked to you a few weeks ago, I was kind of talking about different things with the video, and give us some examples of some of the encouragement that you've seen, but sadly, you've also had some backlash on the video. So can you kind of share a little bit about both?
Mm-hmm. It, blew up, and that was awesome. Never expected it, but it's been really positive. There have been a lot of positivity. People, meteorologists, that's been the fun part for me, is the meteorologists who have reached out and said, this is really special. I've considered doing this, but I just needed that extra push. Like, seeing you do this made me feel like it was possible. I had multiple people ask me how I got involved, how they could get involved, who they need to get in touch with, or where they can start learning, because they saw my video and thought that it was amazing, and they want to be able to do things like that as well, and to be able to reach such an underserved community. So that was super positive. More positivity was getting to see some deaf and hard of hearing people that were commenting, saying thank you on my page. I had one really sweet guy who, after he saw my video and after the winter storm had moved through and we saw some snow, he sent me a video signing, showing me the snow in his backyard. And that was really awesome for me, is that the whole video was just him signing. But I was able to communicate with him, and I just told him, that was so awesome. Thank you for sharing with me. And so that was a really cool moment. The negativity there has been a lot. I feel like there was a short period of time where it felt like all of it at once, kind of. It had been a lot of positivity, and then it all just came out of nowhere in a span of, 2 days. I had tons and tons of emails and direct messages and comments, and on all social medias, on my Twitter, on my Facebook, people sending me messages on TikTok, on LinkedIn. So there was negativity, people telling me that I was trying to steal jobs from the deaf community, that I was trying to take jobs from interpreters, that I was a one-hit wonder trying to get fame so that I could get people to want to give me a job, that I was an embarrassment to the deaf and hard of hearing community, and that I made them, look stupid. And that was never my intention. My whole goal with this was to show that there is such an underserved community, that we, closed captioning, yes, it's been around for 10 years now, but we can still do so much more with closed captioning. And especially in, events like severe weather, even if you have auto-generated captions sometimes, or, if you get talking quickly and stuff like that, words are going to be spelled wrong. People, if you sit at home and you're watching a movie and you have the subtitles on and you're trying to read the subtitles and you're trying to see what's happening behind you, you're bound to miss something. And especially if something's spelled wrong, then your brain's trying to process, okay, well, what was that supposed to say? And you're trying to keep up with what's going on behind you. If you're in a life or death situation, that can be difficult. And so, that was never my intention, was to be a fake or a fraud, or to, take jobs from people. I had people messaging me saying, you know, you need to get into the newsroom and you need to have a personal interpreter hired for every single newscast. And I am a 21-year-old girl in college. You know, I don't think people sometimes realize that I don't have those capabilities. And I just wanted to combine something that I was passionate about, which is meteorology, and then the deaf and hard of hearing community, and just try to help where I can. And, you know, obviously I want to be an ally. And so people that had constructive criticism, you know, in my video, I was talking in English and then so signing in English, and that's technically not ASL. ASL is its own language. It's American Sign Language. And so its syntax and things are different. And so I had multiple people that were saying, you know, you weren't technically using sign language, you were using something else. And in a way, like, yeah, they're right. And so I've had people tell me, you know, have someone else voice for you and you sign, or just sign and don't put your voice. And those kind of comments and critiques, you know, I want to hear, because I want to learn how I can do better, how I can be a better ally to the deaf and hard of hearing community, and how I can help. But the ones that are, you know, a one-hit wonder, you're fake, you're an embarrassment, those kinds of things, you know, I try not to let it bother me, but it does, just because it was never meant to be anything but positive. And so for people to take it as, you know, such a negative, that was never my intention or my goal. And so it kind of hurt just to know that people, you know, don't see my heart. And that was never the intention. I would never intentionally do something that would be harmful to a community or a group.
This is so interesting. I can completely believe that that happened to you, in part because the culture surrounding deafness, in part because they've sort of had to do this, but they're a very protective culture of themselves and of their workers. And so it is really interesting that you're getting comments like that. I do want to give you a piece of advice that I've given many of the people here who are broadcasters, though, and that is that through social media channels, you're not necessarily getting representative feedback from people, you know, from your entire audience. It's just, you're really mostly just hearing from the naysayers. And that's probably a tiny fraction of everybody who's out there. And I just want to encourage you that even if it's not done perfectly, you know as well as I do, people who are deaf, their experience of a weather broadcast, even still in 2022, is horrible. It's extraordinarily piecemeal. I know that captions are starting to improve, but meteorological captions are still really, really, really rough. And during live weather coverage, especially when this stuff is so important, I mean, there's just such a gulf for those people between that and what you're offering. So even if what you're giving is a kind of broken sign language, you could think of it that way. There also, you know, there are a lot of people who, when they're interacting with the hearing world, they are accustomed to encountering broken sign, and not full ASL language, but the signs in English, you know, just translated. It's not an uncommon translation form. I think, you know, the social scientist in the room, you are doing an enormous good. And I guarantee you, if we were to try to do something where we were surveying even the deaf populations that have seen your work and will in the future see your work, they would just be thrilled to be recognized, and for their need to be met across that enormous gulf that exists. So I'll toss this over to Neil. I know he has a meander to take us down, but I did want to give you that encouragement, because it's hard to hear that stuff. It really is. And it sits in your brain, and it, you know, one bad negative comment can outweigh 1,000, you know, but it's very much a biased assimilation our brain does.
That's part of why I have I've waited to post something else, just because, you know, I posted my video and then, you know, how to measure snow after the snow had fallen. And it was just within a span of 3 days, I had so much. And so I was like, okay, I talked to a couple people, and it was just, you know, probably in the best to give it just a little bit of time, let it cool off, reassess how I want to do things differently, and then go back. And I definitely don't want it to be done. You know, that's not the goal. I want it to continue to be something that is used. And even when I get a job somewhere, you know, I want it to become a segment or something that I can continue to do, continue to pursue, and end up in a situation where people, you know, wherever I get my job, but they're like, yes, keep doing that. We're going to, you know, find the best way we possibly can to include that and to do this. So I definitely wasn't, one hit wonder type situation. I'm taking that time to figure out the best way to go about it so that I can continue to do it in a positive light. And so people can see, it wasn't just me trying to record a bunch of things and share it out there to make it look like I was doing a bunch, that I am listening. And I've been in communication with a few people who have been critiquing, but in a positive way. And so they've said, okay, what are we doing next? How can I help you? We want you to do this, but you maybe change a couple of things. And so working with them towards, the next video is the goal.
Yeah, I want to hop in here and this is more of a meander than probably a rabbit hole, but it ties back into what James was saying earlier about people having thick skin. And the social media is a toxic place. And like Kim said, they're not going to reach out unless they have something angry to say. So don't let that paint a picture of the representative sample, because I think what you're doing is amazing. And I can somewhat speak from firsthand experience because my sister's special needs. She's got a variation of Down syndrome and communicates a lot through sign, still lives with my mom who actually taught sign. And I got a thick skin pretty early on as a kid because it was pretty obvious just from my sister's physical appearance that she was severely mentally handicapped, and people would openly mock her and make fun of her in public and everything else. And when you're a kid, especially a really self-conscious teenager, that was hard growing up. And so I feel like I got a little bit of a thick skin early, but I still avoid all social media because of the very things you've experienced. But in your field, you kind of have to be there. But it got me thinking about where the weather community is going with this. I've got a no weather radio, but it's a really, really old one from Radio Shack that is just audio. And I know some of the new ones have lights and other things. Are we doing enough? I mean, we still refer to this as an underserved community. So presumably they're not being served as well as they should be. So what else do we need to be doing?
Mm-hmm. I even had a conversation just this weekend when I was actually working my job in Sherman, because, if you look at the FCC's guidelines for closed captioning, and there's a lot of deaf and hard of hearing people that don't know sign language. So sign language is not the end all be all, yes, it helps. And I want to continue to do that. But at the end of the day, closed captioning is super important too, because there's, that's how people get their information, is being able to read those closed captioning. But the FCC's rules are that things are supposed to be accurate and they're supposed to sync up, be complete, and that they're properly placed. And we even looked at ourselves, and not everybody's doing that. And, it's so difficult too, because even if you do closed captioning, especially, for weather, you're not going to say, it doesn't matter how many times you write something or you try to sit there and try to read it. If you're not using a system that just takes your voice, there's a lot of stations that are doing live closed captioning. And as you speak, it captions for you. But when you're typing out something, it doesn't matter, you can be blue in the face trying to memorize it. You're still going to say something different. And, stuff with like anchor talk and crosstalk, you can never script that. And so that's one big thing that the deaf and hard of hearing community is missing out on, is they have no idea, your 7-day is showing at the end of the screen, but you're talking to someone else and they have no idea what you're saying. If you're making jokes, like they're missing out on all of that because that wasn't scripted. And if you're in a situation that they don't have that live captioning, then they have no idea what's going on. And that's sometimes the unfortunate part, is they don't get the fun side of the news, and there can be fun side of the news, but if it's not scripted, quote unquote, I'm going to make this joke, they're never going to know. And meteorologists don't memorize scripts. It's ad-libbing. They go about, and especially, in a severe weather situation, you're just taking it every second. You're trying to figure out what's exactly happening and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think there's still a long way to go. And even, the station I'm working at, we're starting to work on training a live closed captioning device so that we can kind of move away from the scripted side, because yes, it was helpful, when we first got into this 10 years ago, but it's been 10 years. And with the technology that we have in place now, people should be able to all get the news the exact same. And there are so many people out there that may not be completely deaf, but they're hard of hearing, and they rely on certain things, and they still rely on the closed captioning. And so it's a disservice kind of that we think that just writing closed captioning, okay, I did my closed captioning, it's good enough, they're going to get the details, because you wouldn't expect that. You want to hear what's happening. You want to hear jokes that are made. You want to get your news in a full sense. And so I think there's still a lot more that we can do by having stations get live closed captioning the best, the most accurate you can. And nothing is perfect. So even if you have something that's, 97, 98% accurate, that's still better than nothing and just scripting things and then not going off the script. And so I still think, yes, stations are doing their best, but there's still so much more that we can do. And the fact that technology is ever changing and ever getting better, I feel like we should be doing more.
Yeah, I can see some comments in the chat mocking my level of technology with my old school radio. But, the closed captioning is a great point, but it also assumes that people are either watching TV or they can read in that particular language. And I'm wondering, maybe beyond the deaf community, what about the blind community? Like, how do we make sure that the watches and warnings reach these folks versus just assuming that they're going to take the necessary steps to protect themselves above and beyond what the Weather Service would offer as a public service? I mean, at least in my neighborhood, I can hear the sirens go off. But if I wasn't equipped with extra technology, then what?
Yeah. No, I think that's something as meteorologists, even, that should be part of training is get closed captioning. Yes. Cause again, not everybody, but to, in the situation to, yes, for me, knowing sign language, I've talked with, even a news director, and he was like, if you ever came and worked at a station like this, we would have you ready to go up on a wall. And so if you're not necessarily the one talking on the wall, we could still have you in the corner and you can sign certain things. And I am in no way an interpreter. So I would definitely, myself, I would need to get more into, and I'm going to get back into classes and stuff like that so that I want to become fluent. I want to feel comfortable being able to be that person that can completely interpret things, but I am not there yet. And I will 100% admit that. But, I think getting to that point that stations have someone, if they know it's going to be an event, or just, interpreters are expensive. And so getting into that position that maybe, it's less expensive, or we find a way that we can have people that can do that interpreting at the bottom of a screen. But then also as a meteorologist, having that ability to describe, because you have to understand not everybody can see. So if you're saying, and in this area right here, well, just like your point, if you're blind, I don't know what area you're pointing to. But if you say, there's a tornado warning in this red region for this county and this town and certain things, and if I hear that's my town, that's my county, I am in the red, that kind of situation. I just think being descriptive is something that we take for granted sometimes when we're able to see. And, that's a huge other aspect to trying to figure out. And I need to do more research on that as well, of how I can serve, other communities as well, and not just the deaf and hearing impaired. And it's just, I think there's so much more that we could do as meteorologists, as people in the news business, that we still have a long way to go. And just ask the different communities, ask the deaf and hard of hearing community, how can we do better? How can we serve you? But in a way that's still, you have to work together, because you can't just throw up and have an interpreter every single time when they cost so much money. But finding an in between that's like, okay, we can do this for you, but how can we, help me help you kind of situation, and just seeing what we can do more of.
Kim, I'm going to pull you in here real quick, because you made a comment that made me think of this too, about how we describe things. And a lot of radio stations will do a simulcast of the TV on the radio station, and that can be very confusing, which helps me to know that maybe me doing my radio job is still going to last for a while, because I am specific for people in their car, and saying, if you're traveling, if you're at mile marker or whatever, because some people don't know even where they're at. And so, but you made that comment. Is there anything you want to explore on that just a little bit here?
Sure. I'll just fill in that this is something that's sort of a known problem for people who are driving. The simulcast issue and broadcasters talking about exactly what you were saying. Oh, over here on the map, and they can't see a map. But they're also vulnerable in a unique way. It's, you know, situational vulnerability, a population that wouldn't expect to be vulnerable to severe weather, and they're not, you know, we're not thinking of them in our sort of classic accounting of our vulnerable populations they're trying to message to, but they're moving through a space they may or may not know at all. So not only do they not necessarily know where they are, but they don't necessarily know where to go as they're traveling if they need to get off of the highway. And so they have a number of different vulnerabilities. In that context, the best thing that we can do is, you know, low-hanging fruit is exactly what you're talking about, Jen, is talk through the situation through their lens. So offering those mile markers, all of the landmarks that they will recognize as they're traveling, and trying to both, as much as you can in the short time that you do have, you know, trying to give not just the mile markers, but if there are places people can go, like major exits where there's a lot of stuff off the highway, you know, I recommend suggesting that stuff, because there'll be just a lot of places for them to consider getting to get off the road. So thank you, Jen, for pulling me in on that. I think the radio piece is another really interesting part of the conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's important that TV broadcasters, James is great at it, and he knows every landmark in the state of Alabama, and can take folks and relate to them of where they are. And I think that the more you do that, the more communities that you're reaching. I wanted to just kind of talk briefly about how do we reach the special needs community. I had the awesome opportunity for several years to teach a weather class for a group in Atlanta, and it's called Creative Enterprises. And it's a place where special needs folks come together and they do continuing education classes. So they've already graduated from high school or whatever, you know, education program that they're in. It's as an adult, a continuation. And then they also have a shop that they can work at. And I know there's a lot of places like that across the country. I think that if there are broadcasters or other meteorologists who can find those type of places to be able to teach, and just go, even if you went once a year and go, the special needs community, they love weather. The group I talked to, they absolutely love it. Now, some are scared to death, but it doesn't matter if you have special needs or not. If people are either scared to death of weather or they love it. But most of the folks I talk to, they love it. And so I found unique ways to teach about weather. And I would just really kind of connect. We would review constantly some of the same topics over and over again, because through repetition is how they would learn. And sadly, because my plate is so full, I had to step away from it. But I still get texts from the teacher that I was working with, and she's like, "We miss you. They're all asking about you, and the snow coming into Atlanta, and if we're going to get snow and all this stuff." But we would repeat every few months. Where do you go if there's a tornado warning? How do you get the warning? And that I would have them tell me. And I think that type of education is so important to take them through their lifetime. And so if I can ever get this back on my plate, I certainly would do so. But I think it's just being able to incorporate that type of communication as you can, because those folks are just, they love to talk about the weather and they love learning. And so it's really, really cool. But Billy, you had a comment that you wanted to jump in.
I had to say, I was driving last Thursday night when the event was affecting North Alabama. So my only access to James's broadcast was listening over the internet. And I was literally amazed. I mean, I've watched him for, James, more years than I care to admit. I guess it's approaching 43 years now that I've watched you. But just listening to you was a unique experience for me, because I could really, hear what our audience is hearing back in Alabama when they're listening on the simulcast. And you do a really good job at that. And I thought it was a truly amazing experience to get to do that, and very educational. And so I just wanted to say that. And this show's been so great tonight. Jen, thank you for doing it. I had to get some snacks because It's been like I wanted to get some movie popcorn or something because this has been a really great show. So I'm glad, Michaela, that you had the full floor tonight.
Me too. Michaela,
Meteorologist.
You're an encouragement here.
I was going to jump off what you said, Bill and James, just how, yes, incredible you are. And, in severe weather events, even if it's not here, I know most of us here will tune into the stuff that you're doing just because of how great at doing severe weather coverage and things that you are doing. And, you are someone that even, I was talking to a chief the other day, people still want to learn from. And so I just appreciate all that you have done and the fact that you know your community so well, you know exactly where things are and mile markers and how to explain things. And, that's definitely all meteorologists need to be in a situation where they know their area just as much as you do. And so that is even students here at OU we're not even in severe weather. We'll still tune in to see how you do things because you can always learn more.
Well, I got to mention this though, James.
Okay.
That last Thursday, severe and unusual weather class, upper division undergraduate class, Michaela, that I teach at UT, which is not a major program. Last Thursday, we spent the entire class watching James. We are talking about radar now and radar use. And I said, what we're going to do here at 3:30 in the afternoon, we're going over to watch Mr. Spann over at ABC 3340 in Birmingham. And we sat there and the entire class talked about what an incredible job that James does. And he does do that.
Oh, y'all are too kind. I think I was unhinged last Thursday. I don't know what got into me. I was saying some weird stuff. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. But I will say
there was something about a dog fart in there or a dog having gas or something.
Well, yeah,
was that the unhinged
I say the things that nobody else wants to say. I mean,
and the college kids love it.
That's had a dog. You've been in some little closed space with a dog, and the dog has gas, and you know how bad that is. And the probably the one that got the most attention was the rain thing. And where I am from rural South Alabama. And I hear this all the time. I don't think anything of it, but I talked about, it's raining like a cow peeing on a flat rock out here. And all of a sudden everybody went, ooh, I can't believe he said that. But it's just, as I get older, I am who I am. But I do, and I just said this all the time, you have to understand the culture and the geography. Yep. And obviously the microclimates and the science, but you've got to understand all of this to be successful. And it's not easy. It's not. I tell people all the time, you stand out there in front of that green wall just for a regular weathercast and see how hard it is. But Michaela, I got to ask you, so where do you want to be in 10 years? I asked this is the good part now. Where do you want to be in 10 years? What is your dream market, dream job? What do you want to be doing?
I feel like dream market changes for me just because I'm from this area and I'm from like the DFW area, but my significant other lives in Tulsa and then his family's in Oklahoma City. So being in this region, I think is my dream. And, dream market, I guess, if I'm somewhere where I am super happy and I love the people that I work with, I feel like I'm going to be perfectly content. I don't have a designated, I want to get to this market size, this type of situation. If I'm in a situation where my coworkers are amazing and I'm continuing to learn more and I'm in a community that I love and I feel like I am serving, then I 10 years, hopefully I am somewhere that I've been doing that and I'm happy with it. And I love exactly where I am and the people that I work with. That's my goal in 10 years.
So Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, Fort Worth. By the way, Troy and I used to be big deals on Texas television, didn't we, Troy?
It was way back then, James.
Way back then, Troy and I used to be big deals on Texas television a long time ago. But I got to ask one more question. Your voice is really good. It's deeper. It's resonant. You don't have any accent. Are you taking classes at OU to help with voice and diction and all these things?
No, I have lived and I've learned. I used to start off and I definitely just in normal day-to-day conversations, I get very excited and very animated about things that I do. And so I tend to talk quickly. And so, gosh, if I pulled up some of my first weathercasts, I'm talking 100 miles a minute and it's, you can't even understand what I'm saying because I was so nervous. And, everybody gets nervous, but with the fact that I just talk so fast in general, it was, oh man, I look back at them and I'm like, wow, no wonder I was having panic attacks. I just wasn't very good. But no, I haven't taken any classes. I guess it's kind of a blessing and a curse. Sometimes I wish I had an accent. I've been from Texas, this area my whole life. I'm like, dang, why don't I have a little bit of twang? There are certain things that I've been told that I say that you can kind of pick up on. I'm trying to remember, like when I say hail, right now I'm saying it clearly, but sometimes I'll say it, I guess, different on air. I don't really know how you can say it differently, but I've been sent that multiple times covering severe weather that I say hail very weird. But I haven't taken any classes. I guess just living and learning that talking slower is better.
Did you grow up in Dallas, Fort Worth, in the Metroplex there somewhere?
I grew up 20 minutes east of Dallas. And so Roy City was where I was born, and it is slowly becoming less of a little farm town. But when I was young, we didn't get a Walmart until 2015. So small town, that was like the biggest news, is when we got a Walmart, and, we had a McDonald's and a Taco Bell when I was growing up. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But then I moved 10 minutes more towards the city and to Rockwall, and Rockwall is definitely a bigger city. And that's where my mom lives now. So when I go back to Texas, I'll go to Rockwall, which is 20, 30 minutes east of Dallas.
All right. So
and they have a Walmart, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
see
they have
how
a
Walmart, right?
Yes, they have a Walmart.
Good. How good we are. Roy City would be in Hunt County. Is that correct?
It depends on where, but part of where I lived in Roy City was Collin, and then yes, other part is in Hunt.
Okay. No, we lived in Plano, so I'm a Collin County boy. But you have zero Texas accent, which is just amazing. And I look back on the college stuff. I didn't take any classes either, and I regret it. I mean, I don't have good writing skill. I write like a third grader. My reading comprehension is not good. I'm a numbers guy. I don't think I made a B in math. I love numbers. It just came easy to me, but I really regret that. But your voice is very good, and you'll go long. One more question for me, and I'll be done because I know we're getting late here. Did you have anybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth market that you really admired on television when you were growing up, like as a child? And I'm trying to figure out, I guess it's Pete Delkus was there after Troy Duncan retired. I would assume she grew up with Pete Delkus and David Finfrock and some others. Was anybody special that you liked in Dallas when you were growing up as a younger child?
Evan Andrews, he's the one that came out to my school, and he's the morning meteorologist at Fox 4 in Dallas. And I consider him a friend now, and he'll still comment on my Twitter. And every year during OU Texas, he's a Texas Longhorn fan. And so he's always got something to say to me on Twitter, and I'm responding back to him. But yeah, he's been really awesome. And kind of, sometimes when I'm back in Texas, I'll take a picture of it and I'll like send it to him on Twitter or something, be like, hey, I saw you on the news this morning. And he's like, why are you back in Texas? So we'll have a good conversation. But yeah, once I met him, and then I got to go back in 6th grade and kind of view the station and tour the station and meet him some more. I don't want to say like idolize him, because I feel like that would, kind of weird, because, we're friends, and he's like a mentor. He's really awesome. And so I still keep in touch with him. And when I'm in Rockwall, I'll turn on Fox 4 and see what they're doing. So.
And did you see my desk at Channel 4 where I carved my initials when I was there like an eternity ago? I literally carved my initials in a wall in the weather office before I left. So you probably missed that. But anyway.
I didn't see that. I wish I would have. That would have been so cool.
Yeah. I cherish my time at Channel 4 on Griffin Street. We had just great times. It was interesting. It was a different era. Goodness, Troy, they made so much money back in those days. They didn't know what to do with it. I'll never forget. Here's my boring Dallas story. I was at home at 11 o'clock one morning. We had an infant, and I was kind of watching the infant. My wife had gone to the store, and the news director called and said, you got a live shot today. And I said, okay, where? And he said, the National Hurricane Center. I said, yeah, right. Where's the live shot? And he said, the National Hurricane Center. They had a Lear jet waiting for me at the Addison Airport. They had a car to pick me up, take me to the Addison Airport, flew me on the Lear jet. We walked out of there at 4:30. Was on the air at 5 o'clock, live from the National Hurricane Center. And understand, I was in Dallas. It was Hurricane Gloria. It had nothing to do with Dallas-Fort Worth, but they didn't know how to spend all that money back then. It was just a different.
The glory days.
Yeah. All right, Jen, I'm sorry. I'm done. I keep hogging the conversation.
No, you're good. But does anybody have any final questions? Michaela, you have just been just wonderful.
Thank you, Michaela.
And you're such an encouragement. And I've really related to a lot of the different things that you said, from, just some of the anxiety that you have, or it just feeling sometimes like I felt this way in college. I had a lot of self-confidence issues in college, just feeling like, what did I just get myself involved with? It was very overwhelming to go to some of these classes. I struggled with the physics and the thermodynamics and trying to figure out everything. So I think we've all been through it.
Coming into thermodynamics at 17 years old and seeing all of that, I was just like, is this, I don't know if this is what I want to do.
Exactly. But you stuck with it, and you're such an encouragement. And I agree with James that this generation just continues to knock my socks off. They're so impressive, and I'm excited to see where you go next. And so we're just so glad that you stayed on the show and told us your story, and can't wait to see what happens next. So stick around, because I think we're going to be transitioning here to our recorded segments, and then we're going to talk to Bruce, but we also want you to stick around for the pick of the week. We want to see what you have.
Okay. And one more thing. So I've been creeping on your Twitter account here. I want you to do the R2D2 scream. Go.
Right now?
Well, it says you learned how to do it here. I'm looking at your Twitter feed.
Well,
when you had a situation apparently.
I did. I almost dropped a knife on my foot, and I just made this very loud noise. And then I like paused for a second, and I looked at my mom, and I was like, I sounded like a character. She was like, what? And so I was like, you don't understand. So I called my brother, and I was like, I need you to tell me what character I sound like right now. And he was like, okay. So then I did it to him on the phone. He goes, R2D2. And I was like, yes. I can give it a go.
The floor is yours. Go.
Okay. Wow. Not my best at the moment. I did it so much the other night. I don't remember what you did. I tweeted that. I think it was like Thursday or Friday, but I had to go on TV the next day, and my throat was sore in the morning. I had to get cough drops because I had sat in my room so many times trying to like perfect it.
Wow, that's not bad. I will say that is not bad. All right, so let's take a time out. We're going to hit Tony Rice and his astronomy report. We've got Jen with This Week in Tornado History. We'll come back with some email picks of the week, Bruce Jones, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
The evening sky remains planet-free, while Venus and Mercury continue to be visible from about 4:30 a.m. local time until sunrise. They'll be joined by Saturn in the coming weeks as it emerges from the sun's glare. And that's the problem. You see, the rest, they're either hiding out behind the sun or lost in its glare in front. It'll be a while before we see them in the evening sky again. We'll next see Jupiter in the evening in late September. Mars is going to continue to be a pre-dawn sight until early December when it switches to the evening shift. We won't see Venus in the evening until late December, but then only after a trip behind the sun beginning in late August. We'll next see Mercury in the evening sky beginning in late April. Elsewhere in the sky, or soon to be there, the launch of the GOES-T mission is just over a week away. It's the replacement for the current GOES-West weather satellite after cooling problems with its advanced baseline imager, its main instrument, forced NOAA to put the GOES-West replacement ahead of GOES-East. Set for a 4:37 p.m. launch time, on March 1st, from Cape Canaveral in Florida, the satellite was transported to the Vertical Integration Facility next to Space Launch Complex 41, and then hoisted atop an Atlas V rocket that's going to be giving it a ride to the geosynchronous orbit. That all happened last Friday. Roll up to the launch pad is scheduled for Monday, February 28th, beginning at 10 a.m. That trip takes about 30 minutes at half a mile per hour and will be broadcast live on NASA TV, as will that March 1st launch and a science briefing discussing the mission's capabilities the Saturday before. Check the schedule on the NASA TV website. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, it was deemed the night of the tornadoes. The most deadly tornado outbreak in Florida history occurred during the nighttime hours of February 22nd and 23rd of 1998. A total of 7 tornadoes swept through the central parts of the state between 10:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2:30 in the morning. The tornadoes were unusually extreme. 3 of the 7 were rated F3. A total of 42 people were killed and over 260 were injured. 3,000 structures were damaged and 700 were destroyed. The first tornado of this outbreak developed at 10:55 Eastern Time, 5 miles southwest of Daytona Beach along Route 92. 600 structures were damaged or destroyed. 1 person was killed in a mobile home. The second tornado of the outbreak was the first given an F3 rating. It moved 18 miles through Lake and Orange counties. A mobile home community was destroyed in Winter Garden. 3 people were killed. The same supercell that spawned the Winter Garden tornado produced another F3. It developed near the Longwood area in Seminole County at 12:10 in the morning. 12 people were killed in mobile homes and 70 were injured. Tornado number 4 was the deadliest of the outbreak and had the longest path length. This F3 developed 1 mile south of Intercession City in Osceola County. It moved to the northeast at 45 miles per hour, passing through the town of Kissimmee. The Morningside Acres mobile home community and the Ponderosa Recreational Vehicle Park were devastated. 25 people were killed, many in mobile homes. There were no injuries or fatalities with tornadoes 5, 6, and 7. Tornado number 5 was rated F2 and hit near Oak Hill, causing damage to mobile homes and 2 other houses. The last 2 tornadoes were both rated F1 and had short paths in Brevard County. We detail this entire event on our website at tornadotalk.com. Calling all weather enthusiasts, join the American Meteorological Society by becoming a member of the band at amsweatherband.org. As an AMS Weatherband member, you'll get to go behind the scenes with the scientists of the American Meteorological Society, whose members have been at the forefront of weather, water, and climate research for over 100 years. You'll learn about the very latest research from the scientists who are actually doing it. What's more, you'll become a part of a passionate online community of weather enthusiasts, get access to exclusive videos, webinars, and other fun content, and support the science you love. Learn more and join the band today at amsweatherband.org.
All right, time to dive into the email inbox to see if by chance we've got anything to read this week.
We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
All righty, we have an email that came in from Jackson Gauze. I hope I'm saying that right. I apologize, Jackson, if I butchered that. But he goes, I'm a weather enthusiast that lives in the Birmingham area and wanted to get input on a topic of interest to me. I was wondering if you all are familiar with the work of Dr. Kevin Knupp and Tony Liza at UAH regarding topography and its relationship with tornadic activity. I'm wondering if you all could point me in the right direction for more information on this particular topic. I'm interested to see the latest theories and such regarding the effects of plateaus, ridge lines, and valleys on tornadic activity in Birmingham. I'm aware that this discussion is still in its infancy and not a lot of it is understood about the topic, but any advice would be great. So any thoughts on that?
You know, Jen, I'll just chime in really quickly to say Tony Liza has actually moved to be with us now. He's at the Severe Storms Lab in Norman, but he is helping to spearhead the Vortex Southeast program, the physical science in situ observations that are done in the Southeast, because he is such an expert in that area. And I think that the two of them, Kevin Knupp and Tony, would be pretty amazing to have as guests, because while that science is fairly new, the Vortex Southeast program running as it has now for 6-7 years, they're actually starting to get some signals that can discern under very particular conditions. It does look like topography can play a role. And I think that would be really interesting stuff for this audience to hear about.
Yeah.
I agree. We need to have him on the show because for sure Sand Mountain is an interesting study in Marshall County, Alabama. And the Vortex Southeast Project is where that will come from. So I agree. That would make a great topic for the show here one week.
That's great. I agree. That would be very interesting. That was the only email that I had to throw our way. So folks, if you have comments, questions or anything, or show suggestions for topics, email at weatherbrains.com. Thank you to everyone who writes to us. A lot of folks share some wonderful things, whether it's photos or stories, and we really appreciate it. We read every email that comes in, and we just want to thank you for that. And please don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. You can go to our homepage on the website. There's a little click there that you can click on the link and go sign up for our newsletter that we send out every Thursday morning with fun stuff from you from all of the brains here. So I will now toss it to Bill Murray.
Yeah, and speaking of newsletters, I need to be working on some weather history. So I'm not burning the midnight oil tomorrow night to get mine in, but we really do enjoy that. Thank you, Jen, for pulling it together. This is a part of the show each week where we're joined by Bruce Jones from Midland Weather Radio. Bruce, interesting story today. I'm talking to first responders here, going over our emergency plan. And they said, by George, that's the best tornado plan we've ever seen in any hotel. Do you have a weather radio? Have you already, are you going to have a weather radio at the hotel? And I was like, it goes with me everywhere I go. My Midland 120 my WR 120 is already ready to take its place. But we've got an urgent plea tonight, Bruce. Someone has sent us an email tonight. It's an anonymous listener. Says, hi, I have a Cube weather radio from Radio Shack in 1976.
Yeah.
But I hear that there are now newfangled units that have lights and LED messages and stuff like that. But he doesn't know how to get one. Could you please help? It's signed NPW czar. That's all I got. That's all we got to go
on. Oh, yes.
Yeah, that Cube, that was the classic, wasn't it? That was one of the very first weather radios that was out there. It was a very popular. Realistic made that, and boy, it was a big seller too.
I tell you what, it saved my life, and to Jen's tornado talk, it saved my life in Central Florida in, I think, 1996. It wasn't the 98 outbreak, but I was just north of Sebastian Inlet at Long Point Campground with that radio playing. And we heard alerts, looked at the towns, sort of extrapolated the path, which went right over us. And we all took off south down to Vero Beach and went to the emergency room at the hospital, which was the only concrete building we knew of. And it went right through the middle of the campground there.
Oh, gosh.
So, and I still have that radio. I'll continue to use it as long as they make 9-volt batteries.
Do you still have a Radio Shack battery card, Dr. Neal, that you get to check off every month and get a free battery?
Yeah, they finally, I guess they went out of business before I could totally cash out.
That probably only has the three radio frequencies on it.
It's got a little dial on the bottom with a white band, and I just would scroll back and forth until it would find something. And I don't think it actually ever tuned into anything else that I can remember, to be honest.
Yeah, we need to replace that weather radio for Neil. I'm telling you now. Yep.
Well, everybody needs to get the very latest awesome version, especially this WR120.
But it's got to come with like the faux wood.
It's got to look good on the desk, right?
Yeah. Do you want walnut or teak or bamboo?
Wow. Baby.
Linoleum.
Eumorphic.
I think there's a new product line coming, Bruce, right here for you. But Bruce, we are getting into that time of the year. We've got active weather tonight in North Texas and in Oklahoma, and that's going to be shifting east tomorrow. We're going to deal with it here. And I know you're talking to meteorologists all over the country and constantly promoting this product, but it really is the backbone of our warning service.
Yeah, it's NOAA Weather Radio that actually kicks off EAS. So NOAA Weather Radio starts the cascade, and then it goes to EAS, which runs across the bottom of your TV screen, and then WEA, the wireless emergency alerts, and then all of the cell phone apps and everything else downwind of that. But it really all starts with NOAA Weather Radio, because NOAA Weather Radio is based on that specific area message encoding, where it gives a county code for every county that's involved in this alert. And so that's what EAS kind of tags into. It picks up those county codes for EAS, and then the same thing, moves on down the line. So it's really the backbone of our entire alerting system. The system's been operational since, some of the earliest frequencies started in the 1950s. So we have transmitters in New York City that have been on the air for 70 years.
Yeah.
And the Chicago transmitter is coming up on its 70th birthday either this year or next year. 70 years. So it's a proven system. And I think sometimes people kind of forget about it. They're like, that's yesterday's chopped liver. But you need to realize it is the official voice of the National Weather Service, and it is the most direct way to get these warnings and watches. So we encourage everyone to have one. And those of you who listen to this podcast, if you're a weather enthusiast, please spread that word. It's an important message that we need to get out. The National Weather Service has built this tremendous network that saves lives, but only if you take advantage of it. So you buy one of these little gizmos, the signal is free. I asked our engineers once, I said, when you plug it into the wall, how much electricity does it use per year? and they calculated about 45 cents of electricity to run a weather radio. And then you put, 3 fresh batteries in once a year. So maybe there's $3 or $4 there. But for that, you get warnings directly from the National Weather Service the second that they're issued.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not do that? So,
and Bruce, you've got a special for folks like our NWPs are out there who's somewhere in the ether, and maybe you can help them get a weather radio a little cheaper.
Well, if you'll go to midlandusa.com, that's our website for Midland Radio. By the way, I really don't care what brand of weather radio you buy. I would just like to see one in every single home in America. But midlandusa.com is the website that I'm affiliated with. And if you go in and go to the weather radio page and use the promo code SPAN25, that's SPANN25, SPAN25, then you get 25% off all the weather products and accessories. And these gizmos, they make a great gift. So if you have a father, grandfather, an uncle, an aunt, grandmother that you don't know what to get them for their birthday, for Mother's Day, for Grandmother's Day, et cetera, think about getting a weather radio and talk to your friends about them. And, ask your friends, hey, storm season is coming. What modes of alerting do you have for your family? What are you guys relying on? Mm-hmm. And make sure that they're giving the right answers. And if they're not giving the right answers, smarten them up a little bit.
I got to tell a story, Bruce. So I work out at a gym literally across the street, and I was down there last week, and one of the folks that run the place, they said, I can't hear the tornado siren. What do I need to do? I say, come on, man. Are you kidding me? I've been coming down here for like 6 years. I've talked about this over and over and over and over. So I got him a weather radio and delivered it, programmed, ready to go. So I feel good that you have to knock it down one at a time. And I think everybody that's listening to this show, consider the same thing. One family, one business, let's do them one at a time and be sure that everybody gets a weather radio, and we will be so much better off for it. So much better off. So Bruce, thanks for all your work and for what you do with Midland. And did you ever get over programming those 10 million weather radios?
My fingers, the feeling is coming back on the tips of my fingers. We did 17,800 radios for Los Angeles County. And it was quite an ordeal, but they're out there now. I think in LA County, if you go to your local fire station, I think that's where they get them. You just go in there and they give you, and some of them came with the pillow shakers and strobes too for the deaf and hard of hearing. So a lot of them have those. Yeah.
That is outstanding. All right. Well, Bruce, hang on here. We'll do picks of the week. In fact, let's go right to picks of the week. I guess we typically start the show with the weather roundup these days. We all talk about it, so we've kind of done that. So let's go to picks of the week. My pick of the week, it is an article called "Ham Radio Operator in Erie Charged with Broadcasting False Weather Emergencies." I found that very interesting. And you can do that on the Facebag and the Tweeter and the Talk, and you can get away with it. You can say crazy stuff, whatever you want to, but you can't do that over the air. The FCC gets involved, and it says an Erie ham radio operator has been charged with broadcasting false weather emergencies. Richard Wagner is accused of using radio frequencies to broadcast false weather reports, such as tornadoes. He's also accused of making a series of threats to other radio operators who ask him to stop spreading the false reports. And we can name people that do this on Facebook. I mean, they do the false stuff and then they threaten us, but you can't do that over the air. This guy's been charged with 11 first-degree misdemeanor counts of bomb threats and terroristic threats. So I found that very interesting. So, if you need to do it, make false forecasts, just do it on the Facebag. Don't do it over ham radio, or otherwise you'll get in big trouble. All right, Jen, what's your pick of the week?
So right before we got on the show, I was really excited because I had written to a historical society. We're doing one of the oldest events that we've done on Tornado Talk from 1834 in Virginia. And so I wrote to one of the county historical societies, and they wrote me back, and I gave some plantation names and just family names and all this stuff. And I said, just anything that you have, if anybody has anything written in a diary or something. And so they wrote me back and confirmed that they knew of the tornado, and then gave another name. and then said that I'm going to do all that I can to help you with this. And I was about to go through the roof of excitement because I love this stuff. So my pick of the week is your local historical society. Most every county has one across the country. And so I found this website called preservationdirectory.com, and they actually list over 4,500 links to historical societies across North America. And if they don't have that, just Google your local historical society. Get to know those folks. They work really hard to preserve the local history of the county and the area and the communities. And I'm so excited. Like, I was ready to jump on the phone with this person. So it's very exciting. If you happen to see a paw, or she's scraping the screen right now, she's right here. Cece is in the screen, and I think she's wanting me to shut up. So I think she's like, stop, you're done talking. All right, I'm done now. Bye.
Yeah, that's a rap sign right there. All right, let's go to Rick. Rick, looks like the storms are pretty far south of you, so you got plenty of time to dream up a good pick of the week for us. So go.
Well, I just got an alert from my Tempest weather station that it's raining outside. So just skirting us to the south there. My pick of the week is, the SPC puts out their outlooks, and I don't know, one of my complaints about the outlooks that's on the website is they're just one scale. They're just zoomed out to the whole national level. A lot of people don't realize they're actually produced maps of the day 1, 2, and 3 severe outlook that are zoomed into either a county warning area of a National Weather Service office, that are zoomed into a state, or that are zoomed into a FEMA region. So my pick of the week is a 3-for-1 special. The links to those they're not on the SPC website. They're not hidden, like you're not supposed to find them, but it's a challenge. So you'll have the links if you go to the show notes from tonight's show.
Excellent. That's a great pick of the week. Neil, what you got for us?
So I was really tempted to pass along this link of all the background research that the producers did for the K-drama series that Kim is binge watching on how to properly generate a SKU-T, but I'm going to go with a YouTube video of a vortex that formed over an Icelandic volcano, because it got me thinking about the email that we got from topography. And I think it's probably a mix of topography and heat and a few other things, but it's a really cool video.
Awesome. Outstanding. Love stuff like that. Great pick. And again, all of these will be up on weatherbrains.com when the show posts later tonight. Troy, what's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to kind of follow up because before the show tonight, Rick and I had when he shared his pick of the week, I had one that I was kind of looking at, and I've sent along just not a link, because there isn't really a link to this, but I've sent a copy of an image that the Storm Prediction Center has started, especially for watches, to create some new maps, which they're basically doing on the fly. We just had a tornado watch issued for eastern Oklahoma and parts of Arkansas in the last couple of minutes. They'll do that. But there's some new graphics. They're not out there in a file like Rick has given us tonight. But really, I like some of these new graphics that the SPC is using. And you'll see one of those. It's just an image that I sent along tonight to share with people. My pick of the week.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right, Bruce, what you got for us this week? Go.
Hey, I'm in Loveland, Colorado for the Colorado Emergency Management Conference, and was just downstairs talking with a couple of the emergency managers from Western Colorado who said, we're part of this worst drought in 1,200 years thing that's going on in portions of the Western United States. So they're looking forward to this Arctic front. It's really cold and blowing snow out here outside my window at the hotel, because they're saying it could bring about 3 feet of snow into the mountain areas of Gunnison and Telluride, and it's something that they desperately need. So I don't have a web link for it, but it was a recent paper decrying the fact that this apparently is the worst mega drought in 1,200 years. They agree in Western Colorado.
Well, good for them. That's great news. All right, Michaela, we've stalled long enough. It is time for a pick of the week. This could be a website, hardware, software, equipment, whatever. Go.
My pick I found on social media, and it was ahead of the storms that we're going to see in Oklahoma. And that's that someone created, the difference between freezing, you've probably seen it, but the difference between freezing rain and sleet. And they use donuts so that the freezing rain is like a glazed donut to show you, how it is. And then the sleet is a sprinkled donut. And I thought that was a great way of representing how the different types of precipitation winter, especially the fact that we're going to get winter weather here. So I liked that one. I liked the representation of, you know, donuts, something people can understand and they enjoy to talk about winter weather.
That's awesome. I love donuts, and I love that. That is a great visual. So, all right, Bill Murray, what you got? Go.
Well, you know, usually, James, I look forward every week to hearing the foghorn. That's my, you know, highlight of my week is to hear the dulcet tones of the foghorn. But something passed my desk yesterday morning that just could not be passed up. And so I'm hoping that our gracious host will share this with our audience.
Oh, boy.
This is the reaction.
Oh, boy.
This has produced an upswing in the birth of babies named James in Alabama. And now you see why that happens. But this is a really funny comedian lady in Alabama. And she had the very natural reaction of how people feel when they meet James Spann for the first time. So anyway, thought we'd share that.
All right. So what's coming up in future episodes?
Oh my goodness, Christina Crow next week. That's a blockbuster. And Bill Hook the week after that. And then we've got a volcanologist from New Zealand the week after that. The shows just roll on. But I have to say tonight, Michaela, you stole the show with your appearance here tonight. And thank you for making it a great time for us all tonight.
Thank you guys for having me.
And I think Michaela needs to take over the operation at Channel 4. I mean, she can have my desk, the ones where I carved in the initials. She's going to take that crown and run with it. She's going to be there a long time, and she will own the Dallas-Fort Worth market. She will absolutely own it. So
I'm going to carve out MS next to JS.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Carve
There you
that
go.
J off of there.
There you go.
Put the M back in its place.
There you go. So that's awesome. All right. And again, Bill, we've got to get Neil on here. Just Neil for one show. I don't know when that happens, but I myself have 12.2 million questions about numerical weather prediction and modeling because it is the core of what we do. And now that we have the stinking NWP czar of the world right here, we've got to do a homegrown show with Dr. Jacobs. So Bill Murray, I'm mandating that happen at some point.
Well, we'll let our lawyers talk to his lawyers, and Dr. Jacobs April 18th is already down if your lawyers will approve it.
There you go. See, we've already got the date lined up. But really, I mean, you think about it. You think about the importance of all these models. You know, I mean, you can walk into a Walmart and people, hey, what the euro look like on the 12Z run? I mean,
well, that's your fault because of your videos.
and you know, they'll talk about, hey, man, is that the 3 kilometer or the 12 kilometer NAM we're looking at here? I mean, people are talking about this in like the Target. So again, it is of universal interest. And to some way, there's a lot of mystery behind it, but I think Neil could remove some of the mystery and answer a lot of the questions. So I really look forward to that show. But we must put a wrap on this thing here. For those that are new, typically we're on the air every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Most people that watch are watching at live.bigbrainsmedia.com, but we know that most of you just listen, which is cool. If you want to send us an email, the email address is email@weatherbrains.com. All of the show notes, the picks of the week, everything else will be up on that website as well, weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thank you for listening. Have a great week and God bless.
We're the Brady Bunch on there tonight. There's 9 of us. That's awesome.
Perfect. Michaela, you were great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was an awesome show.
Yeah.
Thank you,